A month for the New Yorker subscription, our way of saying thank you when you make that pledge to WNYC, when you make that call to 888-376-9692, 888-376-WNYC, or make that pledge. It's secure online at WNYC.org. For $10 a month, you will support your public radio station, WNYC, for actually, I was going to say for a year, but really when you're a monthly subscriber, you're supporting us on a monthly basis. That's actually better for us because we can kind of forecast things a little bit more tightly and know what our income will be. And it also puts a generous donation that'll fit into your budget a little bit more easily when you think about $10 a month versus a $120 charge on your card. Either way, we'll say thank you with the New Yorker magazine subscription. That's a mouthful. When you call us at 888-376-9692 or make that pledge online at WNYC.org.
And if you listen to WNYC in the morning for Morning Edition, or you tune in to All Things Considered here in the afternoon or evening, or you're looking forward to the weekend programming like Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me or This American Life, then $10 a month for all the programming you enjoy every day on WNYC is really a good way to go. If you contribute right now, we will thank you with that year-long subscription to the New Yorker magazine. And I'm suggesting right now because it's so easy for it to slip your mind. You think, I'm going to get to it later, and then all of a sudden the afternoon escapes you and you've missed that opportunity. So now is the time to go to your phone and support the programs you value. 1-888-376-9692 or go to WNYC.org. And thanks.
Yes, thanks very much.
WNYC is supported by Rowan University, partnering with business and industry to take on challenges through research and innovation, increasing access to high-quality higher education and building a stronger regional economy. More at ask.rowan.edu. A Netflix original film, Beasts of No Nation, from Cary Fukunaga. A West African boy is forced to transform into a child soldier after his village is torn apart by civil war. Available in select theaters and now streaming on Netflix. The New Jersey Performing Arts Center presenting Neil deGrasse Tyson, director of the Hayden Planetarium and host of Cosmos, A Space-Time Odyssey. 2 appearances on December 2nd and 3rd. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Tickets at njpac.org.
We are WNYC, where New Yorkers turn for NPR News and a whole lot more.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Craig Windham. Former Virginia Senator Jim Webb is dropping out of the race for the Democratic presidential nomination. He says he will consider his options, including a possible independent candidacy.
There are a lot of people out there from across the political spectrum that I just would like to talk to. And before I would say I'm going to do this, I want to listen and talk to them. I feel much freer now, having cleared the air to do that.
Webb's Democratic bid never really gained traction. He polled in the low single digits in the race against frontrunner Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Webb is a Vietnam veteran who also served as Secretary of the Navy in the Reagan administration. A backlog is forming in the Balkans as countries along the route used by migrants and refugees to reach Western Europe try to limit the flow of people fleeing war and poverty. Susanna George reports from Serbia's border with Croatia.
Hundreds of people, some who've been waiting for days, gather at the Croatian border, hoping for a chance to cross. Ali and his family have been here for 3 days. Each time they try to cross, he says they're turned away. As rain starts to fall, families begin setting up tents and building fires in the muddy fields beside the crossing. The previous night, aid workers estimate over 1,000 people were forced to sleep along the border. The relatively poor southern Balkan states between Greece and the heart of the EU are struggling to step up as winter weather and politics are making the migrant journey slower and more dangerous. For NPR News, I'm Susanna George along the Serbian-Croatian border.
The U.S. and Russia have signed an agreement aimed at minimizing the risk of collisions between their warplanes as well as other incidents as both countries carry out airstrikes in Syria. The Pentagon says the accord sets up safety protocols and a hotline, but does not include zones of cooperation or the sharing of target information. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 13 points today. This is NPR News from Washington.
And this is WNYC in New York. I'm Sean Carlson. The New York Times reports a deal to sell the largest apartment complex in Manhattan will include the preservation of nearly half of the development's units as affordable middle-class housing. Stuyvesant Town Peter Cooper Village is being sold to the Blackstone Group. The sale is expected to be for more than $5.3 billion and includes an agreement with the de Blasio administration to keep a block of 5,000 apartments affordable for the next 2 decades. The city is waiving $77 million in taxes and giving Blackstone a $144 million low-interest loan. New York's Attorney General is investigating a help wanted ad printed in a Rockland County newspaper with the words "No Haitians." The ad placed in the October issue of the New City Penny Saver appears to have been posted by Interim Healthcare, Inc. In a statement, Interim apologized and said they'll investigate how it got published. Penny Saver Board Chairman Sidney Stutter has also apologized. New York Senator David Carlucci, who represents Rockland County, says he'll ask the state's Labor Department and the Federal Equal Opportunity Employment Commission to investigate. A Ukrainian man has pleaded not guilty in federal court in Newark to charges he orchestrated a scheme to steal individual computer users' online bank information and sell it on the black market. Sergei Vodmenko allegedly used aliases like Darklife and Centurion. Federal prosecutors allege he and co-conspirators hacked into the computers of an unnamed global financial institution with offices in New Jersey. He was charged in April in a 6-count indictment that was unsealed last week. He had been living in Naples, Italy before his arrest this month. Fundraising for New Jersey's state Democratic and Republican political parties is down by more than 50% since 1999, the last election year without major figures at the top of the ticket. The state parties and committees have raised south of $4 million combined this year, but big money is still pouring into the elections independent of the parties. Jeff Brindle, director of New Jersey's Election Law Enforcement Commission, says the drop in party fundraising can be directly traced to the increasing influence of super PACs.
What's happening is what's happening at the national level as well as, at the various state levels, that so much of the money is now going to the independent groups that are more and more participating in our elections in New Jersey.
Voter turnout is projected to be at a record low. For tonight, partly cloudy skies, low around 55 degrees. Tomorrow, another beautiful day, sunny skies, high near 73. It is a lovely evening in the Big Apple right now, 69 degrees and sunny in Central Park. This is WNYC and WNYC.org at 4:35.
Support for NPR comes from WNYC members and from CFP on behalf of certified financial planner professionals committed to the highest standard in personal financial advice to help plan for major life events and reaching financial goals at letsmakeaplan.org. And Dropbox, providing Dropbox for business with added administrative features and security controls designed specifically for business, enabling people to work together on any file from anywhere. Learn more at dropbox.com/business.
Hi, I'm Sarah Jessica Parker, longtime member of WNYC. Now, sometimes listeners aren't sure when it's time to become a member, so maybe this will help. It's time to pledge. If you've ever Googled Ira Glass, just to see what he looks like.
If you've ever noticed when Satirius has a cold, you find yourself tracking his recovery throughout the week.
If all the new sounds you hear come from new sounds. If you've ever thought, that's exactly what I would have asked Brooke.
If you start every Friday morning with a good cry, courtesy of Storycorps.
If you're listening to this right now.
Yep, it's time to pledge. Here's how.
And here's how you can make your first contribution or renew your support by calling 1-888-376-9692 or give online at WNYC.org. This is All Things Considered on WNYC. I'm Jamie Floyd, and with me today is WNYC's Program Director, Jacqueline Sincata. We are hoping that you will join us in our community of listeners at WNYC because every contribution sustains and strengthens WNYC's news, information, and cultural programs. That's why we're so pleased to be here for the fall pledge drive, and we hope that you will show your support for WNYC by calling 1-888-376-9692 or going to our website, WNYC.org, to show your support for WNYC's news, information, and cultural programming.
And that number is 1-888-376-9692. 1-888 888-376-WNYC. You can also pledge online at WNYC.org. And what does your donation do? Well, it helps us to provide the in-depth reporting that you hear on WNYC. At the moment, I'd like to highlight the work of the New Jersey Public Radio team here at WNYC. They dig deep into issues that affect our New Jersey listeners, including the deal that brought Facebook founders $100 million gift to Newark Public Schools, and more importantly, I think, the analysis of how that money was spent. And former Governor Jim McGreevy's lifetime health benefits after just 4 months of work. That's the kind of reporting we dig deep into. And you'll find when you listen to WNYC, you'll probably hear things about those stories that you won't hear elsewhere. That's what public radio does. That's what you hear on WNYC. That's what your member dollars make happen when you call us at 888-376-9692, 888-376-WNYC, or make that first-time gift. Why not make today the day that you become a member? Go to our website, WNYC.org. It'll take just a few minutes of your time when you click on the donate button.
Maybe $75 is the right amount for you to give to WNYC today. Consider this, if you listen every day, $75 comes out to exactly 21 cents a day. It's sort of like a math problem for a kid in school, right? But that pays for a lot of programming on WNYC, hours of intelligent news every day on Morning Edition, and here on All Things Considered, local news of the sort Jacqueline was just talking about, and politics and culture from Brian and Leonard. Just call 1-888-376-9692 or give online at WNYC.org. And thanks.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Audie Cornish. Jim Webb dropped his bid for the Democratic nomination today. The former Virginia senator couldn't find support in his party's primary and is considering running as an independent. The Democratic Party has changed a lot over the past 20 years, and Webb's withdrawal says a lot about what it means and used to mean to be a Democrat. NPR political editor Domenico Montanaro joins me now here in the studio. Hey there, Domenico.
Hi, Audie.
So Webb was never in the top tier of this Democratic race, needless to say. Who was he trying to appeal to?
You know, he was really trying to appeal to white working class voters, believed in a strong military position in the world. You know, he was the only combat veteran on either side in this race. And, you know, he really was able to try to talk to that in his announcement today.
I fully accept that my views on many issues are not compatible with the power structure and the nominating base of the Democratic Party.
So which issues? What is he talking about? And how has this party changed from under?
And you can see there, you know, this is somebody who has really been on a sidestep with the rest of the party. Affirmative action, for example, at the debate came up, guns, foreign policy. It's pretty notable considering that he disagreed with President Obama at the debate when others were really trying to hug him more closely. Really speaks to how the party has changed over the last 20 years. I mean, think about from Bill Clinton to Hillary Clinton, how the arc of the party has changed. Bill Clinton really tried to focus on making the party more centrist and appealing to some of those more white working class voters. Remember Bill Clinton from Arkansas tried to go after welfare reform. He signed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and that is just not who the party and what the party is now for where these candidates are trying to appeal.
Right, the whole legacy of Reagan Democrats, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Reagan Democrats who had switched over in 1980 to go with Ronald Reagan, 12 years of Republicans after you know, a lot of Southern Democrats had switched over culturally, had made that shift. Jim Webb is really trying to appeal to something of that era, and that demographic has really shrunk quite a bit.
Here's the thing, we've been hearing for the last year or two about how Republicans are struggling to win over minorities. I mean, if the minority population is growing, aren't Democrats the ones with basically demographics on their side?
Well, that's true in presidential races, but not necessarily in congressional ones. I mean, even President Obama, you can see he won the lowest share of the white vote of any Democrat in history, 39%. John Kerry won 41%. Not much better but he lost. President Obama won in a landslide. So that talks about how the demographics have changed significantly in a presidential race when President Obama could get out young voters, minorities, who have doubled, by the way, since 1992 when Bill Clinton was running. That is
and this is all in terms of turnout.
Absolutely. So that's why the difference when you think about congressional races, a president really needs to win over Congress in order to get something done. We could see that in President Obama's first term. So if Democrats aren't able to win congressional races and appeal to white voters, it's very difficult for them to then be able to implement some of the legislation that they'd like to.
Okay, so what does that mean for Democrats going forward?
Well, they really do need to find a way to appeal to this section of voters, you know, if they're going to hope to win back Congress anytime soon. I mean, even in a presidential election, it's still not clear that Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or anyone else can get the kind of level of support, even among minorities, that President Obama did. So Democrats tried to come out with this they had a 9-page summary saying that they needed to appeal to Southern white voters. They said by May they would have an autopsy that showed us a little bit more fully what they would do. Months have gone by, they've never come out with it.
That's NPR political editor Domenico Montanaro. Domenico, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Let's head north now to continue this focus on politics. The words landslide, stunning rout, sweeping victory are all being used to describe what has happened in Canada. The leader of the country's Liberal Party was elected Prime Minister yesterday. His name is Justin Trudeau, and his election ends nearly a decade of rule under the Conservative Party's Stephen Harper. Though, as NPR's Jackie Northam reports, that does not necessarily mean a change in policy over important issues to the U.S., like the Keystone XL oil pipeline.
Like any good politician, Justin Trudeau campaigned on the promise of change, ushering in what he calls sunny ways. That will surely be good news to the Obama administration, which had a troubled relationship with the outgoing Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Canada's economy relies heavily on its oil and gas exports, and the Conservative leader had made a strong commitment to the proposed Keystone XL pipeline, a project which could send Canadian oil to the Gulf Coast. Diane Francis, a columnist with Canada's Financial Post, says the pipeline became a major point of friction.
I happened to be in Harper's office 2 days after the first Keystone setback when Obama said, "I don't think so, we have to study it more." And he had the posture of a pouting child. He was cranky and he didn't like it.
And the relationship deteriorated from there. Trudeau has an opportunity to reverse that.
I think it is absolutely a new day on the Keystone.
Gary Hofbauer, a senior fellow with the Peterson Institute for International Economics, says Trudeau is taking a different tack when it comes to the oil pipeline project.
What Trudeau and his allies in the Liberal Party have been saying is that Harper put too much emphasis on Keystone. They're not saying that Keystone should be abandoned. They're not going that far. But they didn't want to center the Canada-U.S. relationship on Keystone.
The White House is still waiting for the State Department to finish a review before making a decision on the proposed pipeline. Craig Alexander with the C.D. Howe Institute, an economic think tank in Toronto, says in the meantime, Trudeau is expected to increase Canada's commitment to the environment, something which is near to President Obama's heart.
It's likely that if Canada made more progress on reducing emissions, that this would then open the possibility of greater support for the Keystone XL pipeline.
Columnist Diane Francis says any Canadian Prime Minister has to do a careful balancing act to make sure it doesn't look like it's doing Washington's bidding.
This is deadly in politics in Canada if you're perceived to be America's poodle.
Which means Trudeau has to live up to campaign promises, such as ending Canada's combat mission against the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq.
That's going to not please a lot of people in Washington.
Trudeau waffled on a couple of issues during his campaign, including where he and his center-left party stood on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the mega trade pact bringing together 12 Pacific Rim nations. Trudeau has only said the agreement needs a closer look. Alexander with the C.D. Howe Institute says he expects Trudeau's Liberal Party will agree to the TPP.
I think if we look at the history of the Liberal Party of Canada, they are pro-trade.
And that should help Trudeau renew relations with his southern neighbor. Jackie Northam, NPR News, Washington.
Support for NPR comes from member stations and from America's Natural Gas. Learn how Georgia Power reduced emissions at its power plant using natural gas. Thinkaboutit.org. And Moo, working to help businesses stand out with a range of business cards and printed products for telling a company's unique story. Also offering Printfinity, the ability to print a different image on every card. More at moo.com.
This is All Things Considered on WNYC. I'm Jamie Floyd. The Obama administration recently announced that the U.S. would take in 85,000 refugees next year. That's up from 70,000, but still far short of what the nation's taken in during previous refugee crises in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. As part of his Micropolis series, WNYC's Arun Venugopal considers what the country loses with its scaled-back approach.
For me, the face of the refugee crisis is Ahmed Adam Ali, a 25-year-old I met in Paris this summer. He'd recently arrived from Darfur and couldn't stop talking about America.
It's mean for me, everything in this life, really. If I find myself in America, definitely I will be crazy. I can't believe myself if I...
This man was homeless, literally living on the street at times. But he had all sorts of opinions about how Americans talk, how they sound.
I like accent American.
You like the American accent?
Yeah,
like
American accent. Yeah, like you. When you said a little bit, I like this words, really.
A little bit. Ahmed had really serious problems, on a scale that most of us can't imagine. He'd fled Sudan a couple months earlier, leaving his mother and 2 little brothers behind. His father was missing, quite possibly dead, and he was now homeless in France. This plaza in which we stood, there were over 100 refugees sleeping outside here on mattresses, washing their utensils, their hands and legs with water that spouted out of the curb. Water meant to wash the gutters of Paris. Ahmed's life was defined by indignities and instability, and yet he had it all figured out. His future, the amazing places he traveled to in the U.S. once he got his papers.
Bronx. The town is Bronx.
The Bronx. That's in New York City.
Yeah.
You want to see the Bronx? The U.S. is the promised land for Ahmed. His idealism, though, feels so disconnected from how Americans talk about America these days. On one hand, you have progressives pointing out the failure of the American dream, railing against income inequality and rising poverty. Meanwhile, Donald Trump wants a wall to keep immigrants out and says he'd ship the refugees back if he's elected. Young men like Ahmed, men from the Muslim world, are now seen as a serious threat.
We don't know who they are.
Congressman Mike McCall is a Republican and head of the House Homeland Security Committee. He was recently on ABC's This Week.
From a national security standpoint, I take ISIS at its word when they said, in their own words, that we'll use and exploit the refugee crisis to infiltrate the West.
That was the same argument that was used to keep Jews out during the Second World War.
Mark Hetfield is the head of HIAS, which started helping Jewish refugees in the 1880s and now helps refugees regardless of their background.
But these were German nationals whose allegiance was therefore questionable. They could be plants. It was the same argument that was used by some against bringing Soviet Jews in, that they could be Soviet spies.
One of the refugees that HIAS helped settle years ago was Lev Golinkin. He remembers getting beat up regularly in school in the Soviet Union because he was Jewish. In 1989, his family fled and eventually resettled in West Lafayette, Indiana. They were embraced by the community. Last year, Doubleday published his memoir, A Backpack, a Bear, and 8 Crates of Vodka. It got great reviews, was chosen as an Amazon Best Book of the Month. He had arrived.
We were very lucky for 2 reasons.
One, they had the support of America's Jewish community.
And 2 is that we did not have the stigma that some places in America and in Europe is against Muslims.
Ahmed Adam Ali, though, is completely undaunted.
A man can touch down on the moon. A wall came down in Berlin.
He's taught himself English, committed Barack Obama's speeches to memory, closely studied clips of Denzel Washington, the motivational speaker Les Brown. His dream is to study psychology or sociology at an American college. But really, what are the odds of that? In the current political climate, there is little chance America will make room for him or the literally millions of other refugees escaping Africa and the Middle East. This reality seem to have eluded Hamid. The America of his imagination isn't unwelcoming. It's a place of fantastic possibility and poetry.
I find some books, it's called Gwendolyn Brooks.
Gwendolyn Brooks?
Yeah. When I write about Gwendolyn Brooks, wow, she's, you know, I feel confident when I write about her.
He broke into a poem by June Jordan, Corners on the Curving Sky. It felt like a gift.
Our earth is round, and among other things that mean that you and I...
Our earth is round, and among other things, that means that you and I can hold completely different points of view and both be right. This is Micropolis. I'm Arun Vanagopal at WNYC.
WNYC support comes from New York Presbyterian Hospital, working to bring advanced and compassionate care to the New York City community. More information available at nyp.org/amazingthings. New York Presbyterian, amazing things are happening here. Carnegie Hall, which presents the American Composers Orchestra under the direction of George Manahan, performing new works by harpist Hannah Lash, Conrad Winslow, and others. This Friday, October 23rd at 7:30. Tickets and information at carnegiehall.org. Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, striving to make today a revolutionary era in cancer treatment. More science, less fear. More at mskcc.org/morescience. The Jerome L. Green Foundation, committed to New York City's cutting-edge performing, digital, and visual arts communities.
One of our newest members said this about making the decision to join WNYC.
I commute at least an hour each way to work. Having you to listen to is wonderful.
Whether your commute is an hour or 5 minutes, WNYC makes it easy for you to listen, on air, online, or with our new app. Are you helping to support WNYC? Maybe it's time to become a member. We make that easy too.
To do your part for WNYC is call 1-888-376-9692 or go online to WNYC.org and make your contribution. It only takes a few minutes. This is All Things Considered on WNYC. I'm Jamie Floyd. With me today is Program Director Jacqueline Sincata, and we are so pleased to be with you here for the Fall Pledge Drive, and we hope you'll show your support for WNYC by making your first contribution or renewing your support. Every contribution helps to sustain and strengthen WNYC's news, information, and cultural programming, and you can do your part too by calling 1-888-376-9692 or giving online at WNYC.org.
And I'd like to appeal to those of you who have been listening for a while but have not yet taken that step over the line to become a supporting member of WNYC. And that's okay. You know, sometimes it takes a few of these membership drives to come and go before the message resonates and hits your ear in the way that motivates you to make that call to 888-376-9692 or pledging online at WNYC.org. But one of the key reasons we do these on-air fundraisers, in addition to the other ways that we reach out to you by mail or online, is because this is the way to reach the listeners who have not yet become members. So if you've been listening for a while, and if you find that what you're hearing here is unique and satisfying and not really available elsewhere, listening to All Things Considered, hearing that wrap-up of the news, please put a dollar amount on it. We're not asking you to break your budget, break the bank. Whatever is comfortable for you is great for us. We just want you to put a little check in the box saying, yep, I'm a supporter of WNYC. 888-376-9692, 888-376-WNYC, or make that secure e-pledge at WNYC.org.
And sometimes what can be really helpful is to put it in perspective or put it in context. Think of the ways you might spend that money otherwise, $5 or $10 a month. A muffin, a latte, people spend that every day.
Easily.
Or lunch at a food cart, or a week of newspapers. A monthly contribution to WNYC is